Welcome to Flint Talk Radio. My name is Sam Jahari. I'm from Community Parent, and today we have Jeannie Richards from Brian's Hope. Today what we want to do is we want to give you, we're both parents that lost a child through addiction, and we kind of want to tell our stories and just kind of let you know all the heartaches that we went through. Welcome, Jeannie.
Thank you, Sam.
Well, Community Parent, how we started this program, or Community Parent, was because I lost my child, Brianna Jahari, back Valentine's Day 2011. And, to be honest with you, I mean, why we started Community Parent, because a couple of good friends of mine were her coaches in debate, and they realized that, hey, this happens to good people in good homes. Just want to let you know that Brianna, at the age of 14, or actually 13, she lost her mom to addiction, and it threw my Brianna in a whirlwind. And I know exactly what she went through, because I feel that pain every day. When you lose a loved one, you live with this hole in your heart that just never heals. And Brianna was all through growing up. They wanted to say she's ADD, ADHD, which I was very much against the prescription, and I never would put her on anything. As after she lost her mom, my daughter started smoking weed, prescription drugs, and cutting herself, alcohol, because she was in pain. I never thought that my daughter would go through that route. But, growing up, I lost a lot of people to addiction, but never really understood what addiction was. I thought it was a matter of choice. And, I didn't know what to do with my Brianna, so I turned her to a system that I thought was there to help, which I found out they didn't really have a clue of how to help. Even the people that were in a position of community mental health, protective services, the sheriff department, doctors. My own doctor wouldn't see my daughter. He didn't want her back in his office because she was belligerent. And this is a doctor, and he had been our family doctor from the time Brianna was born. I turned one time. Brianna had done $700 worth of heroin, and I took her to they got a hold of her, and they took her in to see the magistrate, and the magistrate didn't want to send her to the detention center. So at that point, he says, I want her to go to the emergency, make sure she's okay before we send her to the detention center. So at this time, we took her into emergency, and here's a doctor that's just yelling at her. I got all these people that are sick. You're doing this to yourself. Here's a doctor. So, of course, I thought the same thing. This was a matter of choice. Why don't you just quit? But ever since I lost my daughter, every show that comes on about addiction, about drugs, about heroin, about anything, I tend to listen. So I've educated myself since the loss of my daughter, and since starting this program. Addiction is not a matter of choice, and it's not in your hands. It's choice that first time, but 1 out of 10 of us has these addiction genes, and it's not a matter of choice. This is happening to good people in good homes. It's happening to professionals. It's happening to everybody. I used to think that this was losers and these people in the ghetto. It used to be 70% was in the inner city, and 30% in the suburbs. Nowadays, it's 70% in the suburbs and only 30% in the inner city. We have an epidemic that's just not going away. And we really need to unite, because this is happening in every corner of the United States. And there's lots and lots of coalitions that are coming aboard, or that are starting these coalitions to fight back, because we're losing too many children, too many good people to the world of drugs. I'm going to give it to you, Jeannie. You tell us your story, then we'll kind of go from there.
Sam, it's a lot like your story, but there's some differences. I would like to think that I provided the mom and dad PTA, PTO, dinner same time every night. My husband, work, bring home the paycheck, involved in all that our kids do, both of us, and conferences and everything we were just, when my son Brian was 24 years old and someone told me he was using heroin, I couldn't believe it. I literally felt like, don't hate just because we have such a good family. That would not happen in my family. That's how I felt. I thought for sure that I had done everything right, and I didn't. But I did do what I knew to do at the time. Once I finally, after several months of not owning it, unfortunately, I walked in on my son in the bathroom when he was injecting, and that was the marker for me. I immediately felt thrust into the world that I've heard you talk about, because it's such a nasty, dirty little inner city problem. We don't have that out here. We don't see that. That's what I believed right up until this happened to my family. I was very naive. And once I walked in on my son and my mind and everything focused to getting him help, and we tried every program available to us. When he was ready, a bed wasn't ready. When a bed was ready and he got in it, he didn't stay in it long. He found a problem with every program he went to, and I believe sometimes the problems were legitimate. Other times, no. He probably wasn't ready. I don't know. I didn't know enough about the disease at the time. I was still one of those people thinking, this doesn't happen to good people. This doesn't happen to families with the white picket fence in the yard and the dog, and it just doesn't. And so over the next 18 months that my son dealt with addiction, and it drug our whole family into it. Financially, every way possible, it nearly broke us. I continued to see a problem. Help was not, it wasn't in the picture. I truly believe that my son, which it started with the Vicodin prescription for a legitimate injury, but he took them long enough that he liked them, and he, when his doctor wouldn't give him any more, he shopped around and he found other doctors that would. And till he lost the blue card, the health insurance card that a lot of our kids lose when they turn 26, because that's the way the law goes, he was welcomed at all of these doctors' offices. But once the card and insurance was gone, he couldn't pay $5 prescription copay and get 30 Vicodin. So he had to buy them from the streets. And at that point, he was paying $5 for a pill, a Vicodin. I believe not even, I don't even think my son got into the Oxycontin. There may be others out there that will tell me different. What I've seen and can personally state is it started with the Vicodin, and when he couldn't get him anymore, he was up to about 20 a day. And he bought them on the street for $5 a piece. That's why the drugs are out in the suburbs, because they get more money for them out here.
That's where the money is.
Yeah. And so his $5 prescription, 30 pills, is now costing a couple $100. And it got to a point where I saw for myself, it's not about being high or getting high. It's about preventing dope sick. When my son would say, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to do it, help me do it, keep me in the house and help me not do this. And we would, our whole family, we would try. And we did many times. And we watched him go through the withdrawals known as dope sick. So sick. So sick. And he would, 2, 3, 4 days into it, he would escape. And he would get out there and, ultimately get the heroin. And it was easier to get. It was cheaper to get. And it made him not feel dope sick.
Exactly. I had Brianna. I met Brianna's mom the day after she got out of prison. And I met her at a bar, which I just broke up with my girlfriend. So I was celebrating freedom, and she was celebrating freedom. And to be honest with you, when she told me I just got out of prison, I couldn't believe it. I thought she was just pulling my leg. Brianna was conceived. I was using protection, and I went through the protection, and she was conceived, and I was very terrified. And Brianna came. I tried everything to give Brianna a family life with her mom, but 2-3 years into it, she was going back. Really, I didn't know she was on drugs, but I found out all of a sudden she's going to a methadone clinic. So that put up red flags, and at that point, I knew I needed to get Brianna away from her mom. As a father, you're the protector, and my whole life I was protecting my daughter from her mom. I got married. That was my sole purpose. I was looking so I would have a home for Brianna, and I could get custody of her. And in the long run, I found my soulmate, and we gave Brianna a happy home. But her mom would pop in and out of our life every 3 to 5 years, coming back from prison or from rehabs. And Brianna, she would tell me, Dad, why does my mom love the drugs more than me? And at the time I tell her it's a sickness, but I really didn't know what sickness was. That dope sickness, it's like your whole body aches. You got a fever and chills, and it's just the worst kind of flu that you've ever been in, 10 times over or 100 times more than that. That's the kind of dope sick that you go through when you're going through withdrawals. After I got married, Tina dropped Brianna off at my house, and 10 months later, she called me up and she says, "Where is my child support?" I says, "What are you talking about? I got the baby, I've had her for 10 months. Why am I going to give you child support?" And to be honest with you, not that I want to be commended or anything like that, but as a man, I wanted to take responsibility. And I was never, we never went through the court or whatever, but I would always give Tina $50 a week to take care of my child. But at this point, I didn't see that I had to give her any money because I was taking care of our child. So she went into a judge's chambers, and she told the judge that I was going to take my daughter overseas, and she got an order from the court, and all of a sudden the sheriff's at my house and took my daughter. Even though she's hanging on to my wife's legs, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, but we had to go through the court system. And at the same time, I went into the court system, and at that time, I told him, I said, Your Honor, she's got track marks on her arms. This is not a good situation for my daughter. And at the time, I did have an attorney, and the judge, she looked at me and she goes, you shut your mouth or you're going to jail. You have an attorney that speaks for you. Now, I did have an attorney, but I'm not familiar with this. I've never had to go through, judges and stuff like this before. So anyways, I ended up getting full custody of Brianna, and we were at everything that she ever did. I coached her in soccer. I coached her in basketball. My daughter was a debater, which she was very good at it. And I asked her, one day, why do you want to be in debate? She says, so I know how to argue with you. Brianna had a way, she had me wrapped around her finger. She was the love of my life. I never really knew what love was till the day she was born. That child, that especially that first one, in our culture, we think we want boys and stuff. And she'd say, oh, you love your boys more? I said, no way, not even close. You were my first, you're everything. But that was the whole thing, is she always, she'd call my wife mom and stuff. When her mom would come into the picture, she's not your mom. She would it was like she would erupt everything that we built. And to be honest with you, Brianna, she'd want to go see her in prison. She'd want to go see her in rehab. And I never denied her that. I wanted her to know her mom, and I tried to explain things to her. And to be honest with you, after she died and stuff, and I found out that, she had been drinking, she started cutting herself and stuff. And at that time, I took her to emergency, and they sent her to this place. She was there for like 8 days. So at 15, my daughter met an older boy, and this older boy, he was 18, she was 15, and at the same time now, here I'm asking for help because she's running away from school. I'm asking for help to keep the boy away from my child, and that wasn't there. And it's like, well, you can't press charges. She has to press charges. She's a 15-year-old kid that's infatuated with an 18-year-old boy. Oh, it's got to come from her, which didn't make any sense. I found that along the way that a lot of people didn't really want to do their jobs. They just kind of want to whatever, and put it on the wayside or whatever. I tell you what, it's like after Brianna's death, as I started speaking out, it seemed like everybody was coming out of the woodwork. And a lot of parents were going through these same things. A lot of kids were saying the same thing about their parents. So I realized that there's this epidemic, and Community Parent was formed, to find an answer to put this epidemic away or slow it down. Because when Brianna died, she died in my home, and I walked in her room, and the needle was still in her arm, and she was blue, and I was in the military, and everything I had learned just went out the window. I couldn't believe the sight I seen in my child, and I don't wish that on my worst enemy. But after they took her out, her phone is ringing, And I picked up the phone, and it was a friend of hers. And she said, "Mr. Jahari, is it true?" And I said, "Yeah, Erica, it's true. Please, Erica, don't do this shit. You know, this shit is not gonna, it's gonna kill you too, you know?" And, she told me, she says, "We overdose all the time. You're not supposed to die." Does that make sense? That's crazy. But this girl, her parents stayed with her. They wouldn't let her out of their sight, even though she said, one more time, I just want to do it one more time. The drug dealers came into their house. He put the needle in her arm. She died. He cleaned up his mess, and he snuck out of the house. And nothing ever came of him. But from that's how Community Parent was formed. And it's like I said, this epidemic is just, that's all, every time you turn on the TV, that's all you hear about. And people say, "Oh, heroin is making a comeback." 4 out of 5 heroin users, they start with prescription drugs. They start with the opiates, the codeine,
Oxycontin.
the Oxycontin, the hydrocodone, which is the Vicodin, the Percocets. These are all opiates, okay? But, it's not just these hard pills or hard drugs, that these pain pills. Our FDA just approved another drug, like we need another pain pill. This pill is called Zohydro. And Zohydro is 50 milligrams of pure hydrocodone, which is crazy. All the doctors were telling the FDA, do not approve this drug. This is very addictive. But the money is so great that they don't care. They do not care. How many people we lose to have another pill on the market, which is crazy. I came across, we're not doctors, we're just parents of telling you what we went through, our experiences. Not all doctors are bad or that don't care, okay? There's lots of doctors that do care, but they're not educated in the addiction field. I've talked to so many people that are addicts that are going to be in pain or discomfort, and the doctors want to give them the opiates, and they tell them, "Look, I'm an addict." "Oh, okay, so let's give you this," which is the same thing. It's because they don't know any better. But the addict that wants to stay clean, "No, I can't have that," and they'll stay away from it. These addictions, or in America, we have 24 million addicts. And because of the stigma, only 10% ever go and try to get help, because you're looked upon like a loser. You're looked upon like this is your fault. When sickness, you should be treated. You should be in a hospital. So we put them in jail. This is not right. Somewhere we have to make a change. And we have to call out to these sick people to get them help, not to incarcerate them. It's just crazy. We have so many people in our prisons right now. 12% are for marijuana. Just for marijuana. And this costs us so much to our government, to our taxpayers, where if we had treatment centers, it wouldn't be as costly. We need to find different ways of approaching this epidemic. What we're doing is not working. Let's open up our eyes, America. Let's open up our hearts and have some empathy for these people that are sick. I get so frustrated. To be honest with you, after Brianna died, I was so upset with the whole system, from the judge to the sheriff, the protective services, to the mental health, everybody along the way. But I found that anger doesn't do anything for you. I want to make things happen. I want to make some changes. I want to change some laws. Community parent, we've been in front of 36,000 kids. And we do Chasing the Dragon presentation, as you got to see firsthand. And the whole thing is, when these kids are coming out and they're telling you their stories and they're giving you their condolences and stuff, it's powerful.
Yes, it is.
And what's real powerful is when you get a letter or you get something back from somebody and they tell you saved their life. That's just phenomenal. I was at the farmer's market yesterday, and I had a parent that told me that her son has been clean for 18 months and wanted to thank me for helping save his life. And that's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So we are making things happen, not as quick as we'd like. As you know, there's a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
They want to keep this epidemic in the sand, I guess, or their heads in the sand, say it's not happening in here, it's not happening there. Well, I just want to let you know that's happening in everywhere. It's happening in every household. Every 19 minutes, we are losing somebody to an overdose of drugs and alcohol. Every 19 minutes, that is just crazy.
Well, we just had a town hall with our sheriff last week.
Oakland County.
Yeah, and
Yes.
he informed us that the medical examiner's office gets one heroin overdose body a day. That's 30 bodies a month.
That's just Oakland County. And those are just the ones that, that's besides all the other drugs and alcohol. A lot of times what happens is the opiates or the pain pills, what happens is as you start taking these, your body gets used to it. So now you're either going to up your dosage or you're going to add alcohol to it. And this is just a cocktail asking for or looking for trouble. And that's where a lot of the overdoses are happening. You posted something on your Facebook or page of Saline, Michigan. Saline, or however you pronounce it, it's right by Ann Arbor, and this town was nominated as the #1 place to live in Michigan. Well, last year they had 15 overdoses and 3 people died from heroin. And it's just to tell you that this is happening in everywhere. Drugs, they do not discriminate what color your skin is. They don't discriminate how much money you make, what kind of professional or not a professional, or it doesn't matter what you are. This will bring you down. I have an attorney that all of a sudden he never returned my calls. He disappeared. Come to find out, he's an alcoholic, and he went back to drinking. This is professionals, non-professionals. Like I said, it doesn't discriminate. We can put our heads in the sand and say it's not happening, but every family you talk to, if it's not their siblings, it's their cousins, it's their brothers, it's their aunts, it's somebody in their family is touched by drugs and alcohol. And the reason, Community Parent and Brian's Hope, I believe, started was to put an end to this nonsense. Slow it down or something, or bring this, get rid of the stigma of these are losers. My child was not a loser. I know your child wasn't a loser. They came from good homes. But just want to let you know that a lot of times it's not the drug dealers that get them started. It's their best friends. It's their boyfriends, their girlfriends. It's their doctors. Okay. The #1 drug or the #1 high for 12 and 13-year-olds is coming out of your own medicine cabinet.
Yes, it is.
Out of your own medicine cabinet, which is crazy. Crazy. With today's technology, these kids find out about anything and everything, at their fingertips. And another thing, I don't know if you know this, but in the state of Michigan, a minor can go in front of a judge and ask for an abortion without their parents' knowledge, without their parents being there, and they're awarded to have an abortion, which is nuts. Who the hell made up this law? Or what were they thinking? That's just crazy. And there's lots of laws like this that is just, I don't know what these people that we put in office, what they were thinking of to come up with these things. But the fight is on, and we're not letting up.
And it's going to take every sector of the community, the legislators that have been seeing these bills come across their desk for the last 2 years, and they keep getting handed back to Judiciary Committee and handed here, there. That needs to stop. We have the power as constituents. It is a year that we will be doing some voting in, for one thing, and I know that I will never look at voting again the way that I have viewed it in the past, since this experience with my son and his passing in the last 2 years, and all the research and information that I've either found, stumbled across, or been privy to be enlightened upon. It is crazy. There's so much more that could be being done right now, and it's not.
Exactly.
And until this dark secret knocks on their door like it has ours, it's unfortunate. We can beat our drum all we want. The legislators have got to start signing some of these bills. The one in particular, for the officers to be able to carry the naloxone and administer. It is a drug, but it is non-narcotic, has no street value, is not an opiate. It reverses an opiate overdose. If you have overdosed on cocaine or something else, it won't hurt you, it won't help you. Our EMS do carry it, but our law enforcement does not. In other states, law enforcement does carry it, and it's proved to decrease the rate of overdose deaths. We don't have it here. One county in Michigan, Benzie County, is the only law enforcement and their sheriff that is carrying their officers. They're very small force. They started carrying it in December, and it took until, I believe, February, the officer was able to respond in time, inject it. Actually, they used the nasal spray and revive the person. Will that person be free from addiction? No. Will they use again? Maybe. But it's another step. And then there's also some other legislation in place, involuntary committal. If a person has to be injected with the naloxone, you don't go home, you don't go to jail, you go to the treatment center like you were talking about earlier. 80% of the people incarcerated in jail and prison, it is drug related.
Sure.
And if that monies that it's costing us to house them there could be funneled into a facility that better meets the needs of an addict, which is a mental, it is a mind disease, in my opinion.
Exactly, it is. It's a brain disease. You just feel inapt, like you don't belong, or you're just not complete. 1 out of 10 of us have this. My daughter was 15, and this one time we took her in front of a magistrate, and there was an attorney there, and she was telling her, "Please, honey, go to drug court. They can help you there." And my daughter was like, "No, I don't want to go to drug court." And I'm like, "She's a minor. Why aren't they asking me this?" This is what I didn't understand. There was a lot in the law that my minor child, I could not talk for. That you want to go to this rehab? Do you want to go to this place? It's like, what are you asking her for? She's an addict. She doesn't want to go anywhere. She wants to go back on the street. you know. And you mentioned the legislators, and I got a rude awakening really in my life when I lost my child, and the awakening of government and where they stand. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. Somewhere along the line, they forgot about their constituents, about we the people, that they're supposed to be representing us. And I find that I'm just going to tell it like it is. All they care about is their own pocketbook. Who's putting money in front of them, and to pass the laws that they want, and where they're actually going to do some work. What happened in Working for America to make this the best place available. I'm Lebanese, and I came here when I was 9 years old because I had heard about America and their freedoms, and I find that our freedoms we're losing little by little. And the people that we voted in office, they could care less. Once they get in office, they could care less who voted for them, which is nuts. I think we need to hold these people to higher standards. We need to hold them accountable. They are there for us to do the work that we need them to do, not for them to get rich. But that's a different agenda for another time. But we're coming at you. If you're not doing the work, we're coming at you. Community Parent, Brian's Hope. There's lots of coalitions throughout Michigan, throughout the United States, that is tackling this addiction head on. And, Helen Keller said one voice or something. You can't do it, but the louder we get, you're going to listen. You're going to make some changes. You're going to work for us, for the people. And I look forward to those days. I look forward to making real changes. Going in and speaking at these opiate conferences or at the schools and stuff like that. It's hopefully we hit head on to these kids or different people before they get to the point of no return, that they can see that there's a problem arising from addiction, and they can get some help while it's still early.
I think you're fortunate in the fact that you have been successful getting into the schools, some schools, in front of many, many, many students. I have not had that experience in my county yet. They're not letting a parent program, a community program, come in right now and talk. We are in talks. Some of the districts are starting to warm up to the idea, and we may be doing some prescription drug programming for next school year. But as I said a minute ago, every sector, and it's not just legislators, it's schools, it's parents. And we talked about, parents locking up their drugs, disposing of them, not just us, the parents, our parents. My addict stole from my mother.
Yes.
At Christmas when we were at her house for a family function. I was not real pleased with the announcement that she made to me because I couldn't believe he would do that, but he did it, and he did it multiple times. And by us leaving things out, so I know just even going through our grandparents' medications is something that needs to be looked at. But in the schools, what we were told at our heroin seminar last week, the average age is 17 to 25 of the heroin overdoses that they're seeing once a day. 17 to 25. That tells me we got to get to them before 17. Exactly. So that's in the schools.
Exactly. Since April of 2011, we've been in front of over 36,000 kids. We've been in front of over 45 schools, 7 middle schoolers, and the rest are high schoolers. But, it's like what I find is they're afraid of bringing this out in the open, but they're not afraid of losing children. Most addicts, when they go to rehab, and they ask them, when did you start? It's usually 12 to 13 years of age. 12 to 13 years of age. So we definitely need to hit them hard right from the get. Growing up, I grew up in the 70s, and it was love, drugs, and rock and roll. And I think Nancy Reagan came out with a program, Just Say No. Well, we're here to say no, and these are the reasons why you want to say no. Okay, 10% of all of us, 10% have these addiction genes. Okay, and a lot of times, if your parents, your grandparents, anybody in your family was an addict of any sort, you might have inherited these genes. Okay, my father was in a bad car accident, and I remember I was 12 years old, and he was given morphine, and he would take home and shoot up this morphine for his pain. I remember it was a weekend, and he ran out of his prescription, and we had this alcohol, and he didn't have any morphine, so he put the alcohol in the syringe and shot himself with that. And I remember that Monday, my mom took him to the Pontiac State Hospital, and he was there for 2 weeks, and it was like walking into, kind of like a jail, after you came in every room, the door closed and it was locked. And but 2 weeks later, he got off the addiction. So it's very easy to fall prey to pain pills or whatever. Do you have that? Can you put that girl up?
Well, I couldn't get the picture, and it was actually a video, and I didn't get a chance to convert it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I wanted to share with you, Oprah, she put on a show about a month ago after Hoffman, I don't know his first name.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Now, he was clean for 23 years and did it one more time, the heroin, and it killed him. So all of a sudden, Oprah puts on this show, and she brought on somebody on the show. This girl she lettered in 3 sports. I believe it was soccer, lacrosse, and basketball. She lettered in all 3 sports, and she was going to Division I schools wanted her to play sports at the colleges. Well, she got hurt her senior year, and from the opiates, she is out on the street prostituting for heroin. Drugs, it's the devil's work. You sell your soul to the devil so you can have these drugs. I believe the only way that the devil can come in is if we're not really focused. And when you're on drugs, that's what happens. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not trying to convert you. I'm just speaking reality. And that's a big thing too for addicts to get clean. You have to have some kind of spirituality, because anything to fight the devil, you got to have God in your life. Is that right?
Agreed. Absolutely.
So again, we're not here to preach. We're just telling it like it is. Drugs are the worst of the worst, and they make you do the worst of the worst. I would tell my daughter, I say, honey, you're gonna get to a point you're not gonna like who you see when you look in the mirror, and that is the truth. It will make you, as much as my daughter loved me, she loved that drug more. She would tell me, she would say, Dad, when I'm buzzed, I see my mom, and her mom's dead. So the devil's working on you, okay? Whatever you need to keep you strung out, that's what happens. And I just want to keep fighting. I live this thing day in, day out, every minute. Like, what can I do? Who can I see? Who can I talk to? With all the resistance and how much frustrated I get, I know in the battles of war, you're going to lose many battles. But for the ones we win, it's just phenomenal. And the feelings that you get when people say, hey man, you changed my life. You saved my life. It's wonderful. It's just a wonderful feeling. And there's a lot of times we're not going to know how many people we've saved or how many people really listened to our message and changed their way of life, got help, or just never went that route. You know, I remember going to school, and of course, 12 to 13-year-olds, you start having parties and stuff. You get into your parents' liquor cabinet or prescriptions or whatever, and you try things. Here's another piece of reality that you need to know. Our brain is developed until the age of 25. When you use drugs, your brain starts developing. And what happens is you find people that were addicts, they're still very childish because their brain never went further than that. So that's another thing. So please wait. You can try that alcohol down the road or whatever. Think twice about any time that you want to go that route. Think 10 times, 100 times over, because it's definitely not worth it. It's definitely not worth it. And all you superintendents, all you law people, we're going to be knocking on your door. We need your help. We want you to join us in this fight because we can't do it alone. And we need everybody to come aboard. This stigma of this disease, that it's losers, it's people that don't have nothing to do for society or whatever, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. But the whole thing is, I find that it's like they already understand that 10% or whatever, it's okay to just let them go by the side. Well, it's not okay. It's not okay. So that's where we're at.
The healthcare profession, in my opinion, just the contact that they have, which the emergency room people are inundated with the opiate and prescription drug abuse folks. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, by being in there with my son on multiple occasions at multiple different places, they do not treat them very well. They want that bed freed up as soon as possible to give it to a person that really needs it and really deserves it. I have met very few people in the last 6 months that I have been doing the Brian's Hope that are medical care providers that actually view the addiction as a disease and not as a choice on a weak individual's part. And a lot of people don't want to come out and say I'm addicted, because when they are in these situations and these people do treat them like that, it doesn't help.
Exactly. Well, that's what I found too with my daughter. This doctor was yelling at her. She's in the emergency room. She's begging her to give her Suboxone or whatever so she can calm down, because she's just she done so much drugs. And this doctor's like, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. It's your fault. You did this. I got people that needs your bed, because they're sick, and you're just causing this. And to be honest with you, I thought the same thing. I was mad at my daughter. I walked out. I didn't even say goodbye to her. Then, after they ended up sending her to the detention center, she got beat up by the guard, because she wouldn't do what they wanted her to do. Here's the whole thing is, this is what I was talking about before. Our system and these people that we got in these places, they're supposed to know about addiction. And they have the same stigma, that they look at these like, you're just a junkie, you're just a prostitute, you're this, you're that. They label them, and that's just wrong. These people are sick. They need our compassion is what they need, not to be locked away or whatever. And what happens is, when they're so sick that they need this drug, they will do anything for it. So they become criminals. But the whole thing is locking them away. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping them. It's not helping us. We need, put our money to good use. Put these tax dollars to good use. It's not going to cost us as much as it is to house them in the prisons as to get them treatment and help them out. I came across this thing on Facebook, and I just want to share it with you. And it's a T-shirt, and it says, "I take metformin for the diabetes caused by the hydrochloride I take for high blood pressure, which I got from the Ambien. I take for insomnia caused by the Xanax. I take for the anxiety that I got from the Wellbutrin. I take for chronic fatigue, which I got from the Lipitor." So it started out with cholesterol, and all of a sudden now they got 7 different sicknesses. These are things that are prescribed, okay? This guy, he wrote this article on the shirt, and he says, "This is a funny shirt about a not so funny issue." He says, "I love my country and the people who make it up. Seeing this trend of overprescribing is very concerning. People who are committing these mass murders are always on toxic, these people who are committing these mass murders are almost always on toxic cocktails of multiple psychotropic drugs. That is much larger issue than many others that occupy daily news in the U.S." Well, I don't want to read the whole thing, but I wanted to give you an idea. Now, every time we turn on the TV, there's mass murders going on. And they always say, well, they got a mental problem, or they have this, they have that. That's because we're overprescribed. Okay? Everything we want to put a label on it. The whole thing is with these prescriptions, a lot of times they get you started on a prescription. You have to take it for life. You can never get off of these pills. And this is where we're at. Even just aspirin over the counter, okay, has side effects. There's 180,000 people die every year from side effects to taking the right dosage of everything that was prescribed for them, which is nuts. That's just, we're not healing anybody. We're just...
And I believe that there could possibly be a solution in regards to medical monitoring of prescription drugs. In the state of Michigan, it's not required. Your better doctors and hospitals do it because they want JCO accreditation, they want their insurance policies to be lower, and your better doctors do this. Whenever a person comes in and gets prescribed a narcotic like Vicodin, their name, all the information goes into this machine. A lot of times it's referred to as MAPS. And so if I was here now and I got a prescription filled by a doctor, and then I drove to Detroit and I got another prescription filled by a doctor, that doctor in Detroit, if he was using the machine, he would put my name and information for my ID in. He would see that just an hour ago I was over in Flint seeing a doctor for drugs.
Exactly.
The states that have made it mandatory that doctors and hospitals comply with this monitoring program, that's been another area of reduced abuse in the prescription drug department.
Sure. That way there's no shopping for doctors just to get what you need.
And they intend to go all 50 states. Like right now, the states that are doing it are individually doing it. They're not connected.
Yeah.
But someday, my dream and goal, and I know it is of others, that this would be connected. So if I'm buying drugs in Michigan, Detroit right now, later today I'm not driving down to Toledo to get them.
Exactly.
And if I am, they're going to be able to see that that's what I'm doing.
Now, at when we had the last opiate conference, the DEA, he was talking about where all the states have that pretty much, except Florida, where everybody's taking planes, full of these people just to go get their prescriptions. And I don't know if you remember, but he was showing you, here's 9 o'clock here's all these people.
Yes, I remember.
I tell you what, these are some of the bad doctors. This guy had every kind of toy you could think of, planes, trains, automobiles, everything, and lost it all, and is doing prison time. So, people's lives are worth a lot more than money, and we need to be a village. It takes us all, to make America great. And somewhere along the line, we forgot about looking out for each other. Somewhere we lost the love and the compassion for one another and helping each other out. It seems like a tragedy has to happen in your town before everybody comes flooding in. How can I help? But, let's not wait for the tragedy to happen. Let's open up our hearts and let's start today. Let's start right now. We need everybody to come aboard this war on drugs in this way, by teaching and get rid of the stigma of these are losers, or this is a matter of their choice, which it's not. 10% have these addiction genes. That's crazy when you look at it. Okay, I grew up in a family of 8, and 2 of my siblings, which we all partied, we all did the same thing. 2 of my siblings struggled with addiction. And I can say they're doing great, okay, and they're over it. But once you're an addict, you're always an addict. So you could never go back to having that first drink or whatever, going down that line. Again, we need everybody to come aboard. Join us in this fight. Communityparent.org.
BriansHope.org. We also have a Facebook page titled Heroin Epidemic in Waterford, Michigan. It is not exclusive to Waterford families. It encompasses the entire county of Oakland. We go all over.
And Community Parent, we do the same thing. Communityparent.org. We also are on Facebook, and we also have a Facebook page, Community Parent Chasing the Dragon. Again, next week, Monday, we are going to be at Beecher High School at 9:30 in the morning. Beecher High School, Monday, the 28th at 9:30. Let's see, April 5th. We are going to be at Southwestern High School at 8:15.
May 5th.
May 5th, thank you. Also, May 12th, we are going to be at Northwestern High School at 9:15. So we got Beecher next Monday, the 28th of April at 9:30. May 5th, we are going to be at Southwestern High School at 8:15, and 9:30 on May 12th at Northwestern High School. These are open to anybody and everybody that would like to come and hear the presentation. You could learn something. It could give you an idea of what to do for your siblings or your family members. We also we have the Odyssey House, which is a part of us. We also Brighton Hospital. So if people are looking for help, we can show you the way to get help.
Odyssey House is awesome. They come down to Oakland County and work with my families down there, particularly Maria. I'd like to give a shout out to her. She's awesome.
Exactly. And another part that's a great organization that helps with addiction is the Salvation Army. They will house you, get you treatment, and help you get a job. So there's lots of help out there. Don't worry about the stigma. We love you. If you were looking for help, come on out and we will get you help. We will get you whatever you need. You need counseling, you know, a sibling or whatever, please reach out to us and we will open the doors for you. Let's get rid of the stigma. Let's get rid of addiction out of our lives. Let's love one another. All right. God bless, and thank you for joining us today. Jeannie, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
All right. Have a great day.